Hello, welcome to Matters of DeCorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. I was asked recently if I could define the difference between a bad game master, a good game master, and a great game master. And I'm going to do something very close to that. Rather than identify game masters and saying once a game master displays these qualities, they are a bad game master, I'm going to talk about bad game mastering, good game mastering, and great game mastering. Because even the best game master I know has a bad day from time to time. Lord knows I have my bad days. I've got moments of brilliance, but for the most part, it's not like you've always got your best game going. Things happen in your life, you get a little distracted, your players aren't being terribly cooperative, because being a good player is as important as being a good game master. But there are things that a game master can do which will make the session less enjoyable for the people involved, which is how I'm going to define being a bad game master. There are things you can do to make a session flow smoothly and for everyone to enjoy themselves, which I'm going to define as things that are done by a good game master. And then there's things you can do that are just epic, which are strictly in the purview of a great game mastering session. Bad game mastering. Most game masters start out as bad game masters or engaging in bad game mastering. It's just part of the process, stuff you got to get out of your system, and you're working, unless you have a very good example to work from, and even if you do have a good example to work from, you're not game mastering at all unless you think you've got something important to bring to that skill, to that table. You have ideas you want to put forth, and that's kind of the wrong way to start. Bad game mastering involves, for the most part, and this is all strictly my opinion, but it comes from a lot of years of experience. Bad game mastering involves imposing too much of the game master's will and personality on the game and the players. Yes, you're going to have a particular flavor of game mastery. You're going to do certain things certain ways, but there are things we should not do when we game master. We should not put the game on rails. We should not only allow people to go a specific direction to certain locations, to certain places, like a video game that has a very limited decision tree in its storyline. You don't want, well, you can't go through that door. Well, no, those doors are all locked. There aren't even any doors here. There's where you're at, and there's a door at the end of the hall. No, there's no way to go back. That closed. You're going to have to go to the door at the end of the hall. The door at the end of the hall is now screaming for you. It kind of wants you to go through. There's big signs showing up saying, go through the goddamn door at the end of the hall. Because players don't play inside the box. They don't think, oh, look, there's the place that we're obviously supposed to go. How do we go any place other than that? I do that as a player. It's a great way to circumvent trouble and to find ways to stretch the environment that you're in. And unfortunately, if you've got a game master who isn't prepared for people to step off reservation a little bit, this can lead to real troubles. So don't put the game on rails. Don't play the characters for the players. There are situations in which a character will come partially or entirely out of control of the person playing it. These times should be exceedingly rare. People are not there to not play their characters. Oh, you've been mind controlled. I need you to start attacking the rest of the party. Even the person who gets into that situation, you've been mind controlled. The rest of the party is your enemy. You've got their backs at the moment. What are you going to do? It's a good role-playing challenge. Putting that in the hands of a good player, or even your basic player, is a interesting exercise to see what they do. See if they try and find a way around it, or if they wholeheartedly just, okay, I'm going to see if I can get a critical hit on the vitals from the back because he's got no defense against me at the moment, right? In many games, characters will have flaws, disadvantages, things that limit their choices and their actions. It's okay to remind a player about these if they are not playing them on the character. You don't want to tell a player, no, your character wouldn't do that. Your character would do this. Because then you take agency away from the player. The whole reason that the player is at that table and that character is in front of that player is for the player to be the character's agency, to be their free will and their ability to make decisions, whether those flow along with the plot line or not. And often it will be not. It is bad game mastery to take that agency away on a regular basis or even just too often. How often is too often? Well, when people start to become genuinely annoyed that they are not able to play their character, you might want to review how often you are taking control of that character away from them. Personally, as a player, you got like twice in a campaign. Once because, oh, you caught me off guard. Twice because, okay, this person's got real powers and I need to be much more careful than that. Any more than that, and I'm looking for something else to do with my Saturday. A bad bit of game mastering is to not be prepared. It's not your job. It's not school. It's not homework. You don't have a deadline and assignments to fill out. And it can seem like that if you're in a very detail-oriented and very intensive game system where you have to have the dungeon drawn out, you have to have the NPCs set up, you have to know what your characters are going to be able to do and where they're going to be. If you're using published adventures, okay, you've got a published adventure. Read it. Don't make everyone at the table sit and watch you flip through the book looking for what comes next because you're not sure at this point. Oh, you go into that room? Hang on. You want to go into another room because I can't... That room's closed. At least take the time to sit down and read through it once. Make sure everything makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, take a little time and figure it out. You are the arbiter of everything that happens in the universe of the player's perceptions during this game. Know what they're going to see. Bad game mastering includes such acts as throwing a minimum of one and up to many more Mary Sue NPCs into the game, and then making the game about your Mary Sue NPCs. Your players are not sitting at the table so that they can be extras or background characters in your character's story. from time to time, they're going to be following the prince or escorting the corporate, and it's going to have someone else ostensibly in the limelight, but it is still about those characters. It is about the PCs and how they are coping with the situation. If you have a character as a game master that you really want to explore and put out there, the game master seat is not the place to explore that. The game master seat is where you are guiding everyone else through the exploration of their characters as the game master's job. If you want a character explored, you ask someone else to run for a week or two. Throw this character in and get your exploration done out of a game that you are running. We all develop our favorite NPCs. We all develop storylines around our favorite NPCs. We have backstories for them, and as we are building the universe, the NPCs that we come up with are integral to that universe. Because it's not other people blundering around. It's you and your guy or gal that has come up through this with this history and these interconnections. And of course, you want that character to have some attention and time, and that's fine, because having characters like that in the game really brings the world to life. That makes them much more interesting to interact with, and it makes it much more tragic when horrible things happen to them. That makes it easy for them to become motivations for other characters. But you have to accept, as a game master, that that character that you've made is an NPC, a non-player character. Ultimately, this game isn't about them. Their goals can become the party's goals. Things that they need to do may become quests or side quests. But it's other people taking care of it and having center stage. That's being a game master. What's good game mastering? What do I consider being good game mastering? Well, the opposite of some of these things. Being well prepared, knowing what's going on. If you're using a prepackaged adventure, you've read it. If you are writing your own adventure, you have not just written it down, but you've taken time to look at it and think, okay, this is how I expect things to happen. How are player characters going to treat this? And you're not going to hit it all, and you have to not be terribly attached. A person engaging in good game mastery knows when to say goodbye to cherished set pieces because the player characters thought it would be appropriate or funny to blow it up. You may have researched and drawn and mapped this cathedral where everything is going to take place, and the bad guys established a base underneath it, and you may have staffed it with autonomous clockwork gargoyles, and the paintings may come to life with spirits, and you may have detailed notes on all of that. And don't make things like that if your PCs are just going to blow it up, or at least not if they're just going to blow it up and you're going to feel bad about it. Good game mastering is kind of like being one of the Mythbusters in this way. You're going to make beautiful things. You're going to construct things that are absolutely gorgeous, and their purpose ultimately is to forward the story and get destroyed. It's all going to get destroyed. Don't make anything that you think can't be destroyed, because your player characters will find a way to destroy it. Don't get attached to your set pieces or your setting or your world or the things or events or politics. Build them with the understanding that you are playing with conceptual Legos, and for some people, the enjoyment they're going to get out of playing with those Legos with you is kicking them over and building them back again so that they look like a dick. That's just how people are when they play in your games. If you've got groups that don't do that, that's awesome, and you can work with that. I'm talking about coming from convention games and having 2 or 3 different groups running concurrently over the course of a week with different personalities and a pretty broad rogues gallery of people who sit down and roll dice with me. And yeah, someone's going to blow stuff up because blowing stuff up's the most expeditious way to do it, or because it's the most entertaining. The person who shows up with a character who just starts screaming, boom, and throwing grenades around, even in a setting without grenades, they happen. That can be a fun game. A good game master also occasionally reins in players who do tend to stray a little bit too far. That concept's not going to work. Can we work with it? That character will immediately make this game be less than fun for everyone else. Can I suggest a change or two? Most players are okay with this, and if a player isn't, then it's the game master's job to start the concept of maybe we need to have a one person less in this group. It's the good game master who makes occasionally difficult social decisions like that. You know, everyone else in the group was really upset by this, and that one person shows no remorse and no desire to not do it again. Maybe that person cannot show up next time. A good game master keeps a certain amount of communication going with the people that they're gaming with. And they police the level of maturity and defensiveness that their game is going to address. I've talked about this in some supplements that I've written that have had what people may consider questionable content, that you don't throw content like that without some caveats and some warnings. You don't throw things that are triggery into a game without discussing that with your players beforehand. If it sounds like a good game master has a very large job, they do. Good game mastering isn't easy. It's extremely rewarding. It is a great way to pass time. It is a great way to get ideas and concepts out. Half the stuff I've written, I could not have written if its concepts were not first addressed in game. But it's a job. It's a chore. It's a task. Doesn't mean that you can't really enjoy it, that you're not going to love doing it. It can be an awesome task, but it involves not only mastering your material, either prepackaged adventures or what you've written, what the game system will and won't allow, and what the rules are that people are going to be working with. You need to be familiar with everyone's characters so that you can customize situations to people's skills and talents so that everyone has a chance to do something during the game. Oh, you're the net runner? Yeah, there's not going to be any of that in this session. Probably not in the next session. I don't really like net running. That's when you need to stretch and do that thing. Be a game master. Being a good game master involves social interaction with your group inside and outside of that game. It involves being aware of people's foibles and quirks and personalities and triggers, and you need to respect those and see to it that it's respected at the table. I don't think we're going to go there. Can we not go there this time? I'm not comfortable doing this. Can we stray away from this course of action? That's a perfectly acceptable time to say, that's not going to work, think of something else. At the end of a session with a person engaging in good game mastery, everyone should have a story to tell. Everyone should still be friends. And everyone should have a concept that they've had fun. Great game mastering. Great game mastering is not really rare. There's a lot of great game mastering going on. I've been in games with a number of great game masters. These are people who have not only mastered their material. Okay, I'm talking about the person instead of the act again. Let me back that up. Great game mastering includes the skill of improvisation. Sure, your players are going to run off the tracks or going to go outside the box. You need to be able to constantly build a bigger box and make it seem as though that is what was there all along. A great game master or person engaging in great game mastering never lets it seem like something that the player characters do was not planned for. This is not simply saying, aha, just as I thought, although that's a useful tool for this. That is having scores of encounters and settings and NPCs ready to go in the back of your head when something happens. Oh, we're not going to go through that door. We're going to crack through the wall. That's probably another room entirely. Oh, yes, you go into another room entirely. This appears to be some of the workings behind the front of the castle. There's a lot of clockwork in here. Some of the figures that you've seen out of the clocks are here, ready, waiting to come out. And then they all turn and look at you. You might have had to face 2 or 3 of these at a time before. Now all 50 that work this side of the castle are right on top of you. Roll initiative. Great game mastering involves having that ability to seem confident that what you have just said is something that you already had planned. Great game mastering involves not only drawing on the material that you have created or that you have read out of a pre-planned adventure or pre-packaged adventure, but you listen. Great game mastering involves taking all of the paranoid conjecture that your players are generating constantly throughout the game and sorting through it. That's a good idea. This is a bad idea. That's really interesting. That's way better than anything I had. And reweaving everything on the plot line ahead of the characters into their worst nightmare scenario. They're going to give it to you for free. They're going to sit back and, yeah, they're going to engage in some metagame discussion. It's very difficult to not engage in metagame discussion. Will the characters be having this conversation? Maybe. They might. The players certainly are. You can assume that the players are having, or the characters are having, as close to this conversation as they actually could. But the players are engaging in a higher order of thought, and that's fine. Because, oh man, I really hope it isn't one of those. And then you just note there's going to be one of those up ahead, if not 5 of those. I really hope it's not this guy. Oh yeah, it's that guy. And the guy that he's been training. And the person who trained him. I really hope we don't have to deal with any of those monsters. Oh, you have to deal with those monsters. Yes, you do. Except they've had more templates slapped on them, so they're really rough. I'd be careful. Good game masters engage in the act of putting the player characters into a situation and working them through it. Great game masters engage in the process of weaving the situation around the player characters as they are going through it. It's not 100% improvisation. You have a general idea of where they are, what they're going, what they're doing, what their goals are. But you let go. You let go of all of that, those notions of what you thought you were going to be doing in this session. And you just let them write it. This does a couple of things. One, it stretches your abilities to improvise, and it really gives your creative juices a boost because it's hard. Oh, it's hard to do it well, and it's even harder to do it in such a way that they don't think that's what you're doing. But here's what else it accomplishes. At the end of that session, everyone sits back feeling like a genius. There's Sherlock Holmes and Beowulf Schaefer and every brilliant character they've ever wanted to be all wrapped up into one because, oh my God, I called it. I wasn't 100% sure, but I thought it might have been one of those, and oh my God, it was one of those. And not only do they call it, but in general, they're going to beat it. A good game master balances the fights so that the player characters are likely going to win. They balance their traps and their situations so that the player characters are likely going to survive. People aren't playing the game to kill their characters. You want there to be an element of risk, but you also don't want people to sit on a stack of dead characters frustrated that they couldn't get more than 10 feet going, no, I'm done. You don't want to frustrate people out of the game, but you constantly want to have them have that feeling of distress and peril. A great game master, you let go of those concerns. I do not try to kill player characters as a game master, nor do I in particular try to save them. I do not try to destroy them. I do not try to preserve them. Here is your bad guy. I know what his stats are. They are not going to change. He is on the other side of this trap. There is a solution for this trap. I know what it is. I release responsibility for what the player characters do at that point in time. If they want to attack this guy, well, they might want to make some rolls to assess him first. They might want to ask some people about him first, or they might just want to charge in. However they want to do it, that's not up to me. That's up to them. That trap, there might be information about it someplace else in this labyrinth, or there might not be. They might be able to hear some rumors about it, or the solution to it might be ensconced in some interesting cuneiform writing that's actually a form of ancient mathematics. Do they look for it? I don't know. That's up to them. That is entirely up to them. I generally don't even include NPCs in my games that can make suggestions about things like this. My players have to think. And if they don't, and that is often the case, they have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And if that means that their player character dies horribly, that is not my fault. That is the consequence of the set of actions they chose to take. I do not believe in a no-win scenario. There's a way. This guy can be beaten. There's a way past this trap. This event can be put off, but not generally by brute force. Brute force is certainly likely to be a part of the solution. It's not going to be the entire solution. I don't know. What do you do? The greatest game masters I have played with had very similar concepts to this. I think that this is one of the greatest parts of being a great game master, is that at the end of that game, at the end of that campaign, everyone who survives will look at each other and go, we could have died, like, a lot. That was really dangerous. They should have that moment of having faced their mortality. And then they should have that moment of realizing that they've beaten it. The great game master takes a lot of themselves out of the equation. It's hard because game mastering often is an exercise in ego. I've been there. When a great game master lays out a world, it doesn't have to be sandbox. There can be adventures and set things and events that are going to happen and things that people have to do, goals and package adventures. But whether people survive them or not isn't your responsibility. Whether people get every little detail that you put into it isn't your responsibility. And it isn't theirs either. They're there to have fun. You're there to provide the fun. You're there to be the playground that everyone else runs around in. And if at the end of it, everyone is satisfied with the run that they have had through that playground, that is some great game mastering right there. If 5 or 10 years later, everyone's sitting around a table and someone starts to chuckle a little bit, everyone looks over and he looks up and makes a comment, mentions a character name or a villain, and everyone else starts to chuckle, and then you start telling the stories. That was some great game mastering. The test of it rarely comes at the table or in the time sitting around after the table. If everyone doesn't want to leave at the end of the game, but wants to sit there and keep talking about it for a while, that's some great game mastering. That is a truly great game mastering. But if you get caught up telling the stories a decade later, then you did it right. You absolutely did it right. Then there's no better way to tell. That was a little rambling, but those are the philosophies that I put into it. What I try to avoid, what I try and do, and what I strive for. Your mileage may vary. Let me know. If you enjoyed my little ramble, feel free to hit like. Thumbs up down here. I like getting likes. It lets me know that I'm doing things right. If you didn't like it, feel free. I am Spartacus. If you'd like to see these videos as they come out and on a regular basis, subscribe. The more subscribers I get, the more attention I get, and the more attention I get, the more I get out there, and the closer I am to doing this better. If you really enjoyed this video, I invite you to hit me up at my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ScottCorum and consider donating. Feel free to cap your donation at whatever you feel comfortable giving a month, 20 or 10 or 5 or $1. Anything helps and helps me to produce better videos and game supplements and get ahead in the world. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it. Not sure what I'll be talking about next time. Might be some more updates in the future. Who knows? In the meantime, I am Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I will see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum. Nothing says your character sucks like lighting their character sheet on fire.